I've trained clients to IFBB and Natural Pro Cards, from first show to pro. And in today's video, I want to give you a beginner, intermediate, and advanced tip that you can use for cable crossovers. The first tip we have is the beginner tip, and that is to control the eccentric tempo of the movement. So I'm going to do one of my working sets to show the speed that I would use for my rep tempo. We want to remain in control of the weight at all times. We want the chest to feel the tension of the weight through the concentric and eccentric portion. We're not just trying to throw the handles or the weight from the starting position to the end position. There we go. So what I'm looking to do is to stop the stretch when the chest is still loaded, flex at the concentric, and then control the eccentric. The concentric portion is when the working muscle is contracting. The eccentric is when the working muscle is extending. I want to make sure that I'm feeling the tension in my chest during both phases of the movement. This is very heavy, but you can see that I can talk during the movement because I'm able to control the intensity specific to the chest, and I'm not using other muscles that don't need to be involved or over intensifying the working set to where I lose the sensation of feeling my chest during the movement. The intermediate tip, tip number 2, is to not go too far out in front of the pulleys. We want to make sure that cable crossovers target our chest evenly, or we can actually use it to emphasize the inside portion of the chest. When we do any type of press, whether it's a machine, especially non-converging, or dumbbells, you're going to mostly emphasize the outer portion of the chest. The movement is going to feel hardest when the chest is most stretched. So you're going to feel a lot of tension through the outside portion. If when doing cable crossovers, we stay back more in between the cables, we can get it to where we actually target the inside portion of our chest more, because as I'm working against the pulley, that's where like gravity is, that's where the weight is being pulled from. When my upper arm is more perpendicular with the cable, so if I'm holding this here, you can see that my upper arm and the cable are pretty much at the same line. As I would contract, my upper arm becomes perpendicular to the cable, and that's where the movement would actually feel the hardest. So I want to set up more in between the pulleys to emphasize more of the middle chest. I'll do a couple reps at this angle so that way you can see how far back between the cables I try to stay. My key is I want to step out enough that I can have tension when I'm in the appropriate level of stretch. So right now, the weight stack is touching. In order for me to load tension, I will lean into the movement and start to like bring my chest down a little bit to counterweight the weight of the cables pulling me back. And then that initiates the movement. So here we go. There we go. So now I'm loaded. And then as I would squeeze together, more towards the midline is when my upper arm becomes more perpendicular to the cable. That is where I'll feel the most amount of the tension is on that inner portion of the movement, and that helps me target the inner portion of my chest. So this position, by being able to stay closer to between the cable stacks, is a great intermediate tip because it helps us differentiate our cable crossovers from our other chest movements, because we can specifically target the inside of the chest as opposed to the outer portion of the chest. And that's going to help us develop a more full, well-rounded chest. The third tip, the advanced tip, has to do with exercise order and number of working sets. Often what I find with my advanced clients is they'll have body parts that have grown and responded well, but they might have a lagging body part. If the person's lagging body part is their chest, often that means that their triceps are very dominant. So when they're doing their chest press movements, their triceps tend to take more of the focus than their chest. How we counter this is by doing pre-exhaust isolations before our presses. So we're going to do machine flies, cable crossovers, anything that isolates the chest away from the triceps. We're going to do working sets of that to fully fatigue the chest before we would get into our presses. That ensures that when we go into our presses, our chest is already pre-weakened and therefore will be the first muscle to fail in that pressing movement. And therefore it's going to get the most driven into progressive stimulus. So it's going to grow the best. Now, how I'll do this with clients is often if they struggle to feel their chest well during presses, we do a lot of flies before our presses. I'll even have them do maybe 2 sets of 16 to 20 reps, 2 sets of 12 to 16, and then 2 sets of 8 to 12. And those are hard, good form failure working sets. So it's 6 total good form failure sets before we even get to our presses. Now we might start there, and after a 4-week program, we might drop that down to 4 total sets. Another 4-week program, we might drop that down to 2 or 3 total working sets, and we'll find a balance for them to where they're pre-stimulating their chest, but it's not exhausting the presses so much so that the weight load on the presses suffers to an unnecessary or undesirable amount. We still want to be able to press a decent amount of weight so we get good overall development across all the pressing muscles. But that would be the advanced tip, is to start with just an enormous amount of flies, isolation movements before you get to your presses, and that can really spark some new chest growth for you if you have a lagging chest growth issue. Okay, so there you go. Those were beginner, intermediate, and advanced tips. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching.